Hello everyone. Today we delve into the intricate and enduring issue of Palestine. This subject has garnered a great deal of attention and for good reason. It's a complex issue, deeply rooted in history, and it touches lives on a daily basis. To fully grasp the challenges faced by both Palestinians and Israelis, it's crucial to first understand the historical context of this long-standing conflict. It's not just about borders or land, it's about people and their histories, their hopes and their fears. In this video, we will look beyond the headlines and the heated rhetoric. We will explore the key issues at the heart of the conflict, the efforts made towards peace, and the profound consequences of this enduring struggle. Our aim is to present a clearer picture of the Israel-Palestine issue and why it matters to us all. So, without further ado, let's break it down in a simple way. The narrative begins post-World War II with the establishment of Israel in 1948. This moment in history was a significant turning point, marking the birth of a new nation and the commencement of a protracted conflict that would span decades. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, the international community sought to provide a homeland for the Jewish people. With the backing of the United Nations, Israel was established in the lands of historic Palestine. This momentous event was celebrated by many Jewish people around the world who had long yearned for a place to call home. However, the creation of Israel was not without consequence. It resulted in the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians from their homes. This mass exodus led to what is known today as the Palestinian refugee crisis. Families were torn apart, homes were lost, and a people were left without a state. To this day, the issue of Palestinian refugees remains one of the most contentious aspects of the Israel-Palestine conflict, but the refugee crisis was just the beginning. The establishment of Israel sparked a series of conflicts with neighboring Arab nations, leading to a state of almost constant tension in the region. Wars were fought, borders were drawn and redrawn, and peace seemed ever elusive. Over the years, these tensions have taken various forms, from full-scale wars to sporadic outbreaks of violence. The situation has been further complicated by political, religious, and cultural factors, making it one of the most complex conflicts in modern history. And at the heart of it all is the question of land. Both Israelis and Palestinians lay claim to the same territories, each with their own historical and cultural ties. This issue of contested land has been a major stumbling block in peace negotiations and continues to fuel the ongoing conflict. This event marked the beginning of a long and complicated conflict. The establishment of Israel in 1948 was not just a moment in history, but a catalyst for a conflict that continues to reverberate across the globe. Understanding this background is key to grasping the complexity of the Israel-Palestine issue. Several key issues lie at the heart of this conflict. They are the questions of borders, the status of Jerusalem, and the rights and status of Palestinian refugees. Firstly, let's tackle the issue of borders. This is a contentious point due to the historical claims both Israelis and Palestinians have on the same land. Since the establishment of Israel in 1948, the borders have been a subject of dispute, and negotiations have been ongoing for decades. The mere drawing of these lines hold implications for the sovereignty, security, and identity of both nations. It's not just about land, but about a sense of belonging and home. Secondly, we delve into the status of Jerusalem. Now, this is a city that holds immense religious and historical significance for both Jews and Muslims. For Jews, the Western Wall in Jerusalem is the last remnant of the Second Temple, the most sacred site in Judaism. For Muslims, the Al-Aqsa Mosque located in the Old City of Jerusalem is the third holiest site in Islam. Therefore, the control and governance of Jerusalem is a major point of contention. It's not just about ruling a city, it's a matter of faith and heritage. The third issue we'll unpack is the rights and status of Palestinian refugees. During the 1948 war, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians were displaced from their homes. This displacement resulted in the Palestinian refugee crisis, which continues to this day. The issue here is not only about the right to return to their homes, but also about acknowledging the hardships and struggles they've faced since their displacement. It's not just about a label of refugee, but about justice, dignity, and the chance to lead a normal life. Each of these issues is significant in its own right, and together, they form a complex tapestry of history, faith, identity, and justice. They are not merely political disputes, but deeply personal struggles that affect the lives of millions of people every day. In the midst of these issues, it's important to remember the human faces behind the headlines. The children growing up amidst tension and uncertainty, the families torn apart by displacement, the communities striving to preserve their cultural heritage amidst political upheaval. These are the true stakes of the conflict. These issues form the crux of the ongoing dispute. They are the threads that weave together the complex narrative of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Understanding them is the first step towards fostering empathy, promoting dialogue, and ultimately working towards a resolution. Throughout the years, numerous attempts to broker peace have been made. Each one of these efforts carries a unique story of hope, compromise, and unfortunately, often disappointment. One of the most notable efforts in this journey towards peace was the Oslo Accords in the 1990s. The Oslo Accords, signed between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, were seen as a significant stride towards resolving the conflict. These accords established a framework for future negotiations and led to the creation of the Palestinian Authority, granting it limited self-governance over parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. However, the Oslo Accords were not without their shortcomings. They left many critical issues unresolved, such as the status of Jerusalem, the borders of Israel and Palestine, and the rights of Palestinian refugees. These lingering disagreements have continued to fuel tension and conflict in the years that followed. The elusive nature of a lasting solution is largely due to the complexity of these unresolved issues. Each one is deeply rooted in historical, religious, and cultural significance, making them incredibly challenging to navigate. The status of Jerusalem, for example, is not just about control over a city, but about the heart of two distinct religious identities. The issue of borders is not just about land, but about homes, memories, and a sense of belonging. In addition to these complexities, there is the challenge of trust. The cycle of violence and retaliation has eroded trust between the two sides, making meaningful dialogue and compromise all the more difficult. Each setback in the peace process adds another layer of skepticism and resentment, further complicating efforts towards resolution. Despite these challenges, the pursuit of peace presses on. The international community continues to play a role in facilitating negotiations, offering mediation, and advocating for solutions that respect the rights and aspirations of both Israelis and Palestinians. In this complex landscape, the quest for a comprehensive resolution continues. The road to peace may be long and fraught with challenges, but it is a journey worth persisting in, for the sake of all those who call this region home. The unending conflict has led to profound consequences. And when we say profound, we mean it. The effects are far-reaching, affecting every facet of life for both Palestinians and Israelis alike. Firstly, let's talk about the most devastating consequence: the loss of life. Over the years, the conflict has claimed the lives of thousands and thousands of people. Some were combatants, yes, but many were ordinary citizens, caught in the crossfire of violence and hatred. Each life lost is a story cut short, a family shattered, a community grieving, but the impact doesn't stop at the loss of life. It's also about the living, those who survive but must grapple with the harsh realities of displacement. Many Palestinians were forced to flee their homes during the 1948 war, and have lived as refugees ever since. Today, they and their descendants number in the millions, often living in impoverished conditions in refugee camps across the Middle East. But the displacement isn't a one-sided story. Israelis too have faced displacement, especially during times of heightened conflict. Many have had to flee their homes, seeking safety in other parts of the country or abroad. Then there's the economic hardship. The ongoing conflict has stunted economic growth in the region, especially for Palestinians. Restrictions on movement and access to resources have made it difficult for the Palestinian economy to thrive. Unemployment rates are high, and many families struggle to make ends meet. But Israelis too face economic challenges. Despite having a more robust economy, the cost of maintaining security and defense is a significant burden. The conflict also deters foreign investment and tourism, further straining the economy. But perhaps the most heartbreaking consequence is the psychological impact. Imagine growing up in a world where conflict is a constant backdrop, where the sound of gunfire is as familiar as the sound of a school bell. The emotional toll on children in particular is immeasurable. They grow up witnessing violence, living in fear, and in too many cases, losing loved ones. It's essential to remember that behind every statistic, every headline, there are human beings. Mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, friends and neighbors, each one living a life marked by the shadow of conflict, each one deserving of peace. We must not forget that the suffering isn't confined to one side. Both Palestinians and Israelis have endured immense hardship as a result of this conflict. It's a shared human experience that transcends political, religious, and national divides. The human cost of this conflict is immense, but it's not just about the past or the present, it's about the future too. Every day of conflict is another day where children can't go to school safely, where families can't plan for the future, where communities can't prosper. The consequences of this conflict ripple outwards, affecting generations to come. Our hope is that by understanding the depth of these consequences, we can all take a step closer to advocating for a peaceful resolution. Because ultimately, the goal is a future where Israelis and Palestinians can live side by side in peace, dignity, and prosperity. And undeniably, the Israel-Palestine issue is intricate and deeply rooted in history. It's a complex web of historical events, disputed territories, and enduring human struggles that we've attempted to untangle in the last few minutes. We've journeyed from the aftermath of World War II, through the establishment of Israel, to the ongoing conflict that has persisted for decades. We've delved into the key issues that lay at the heart of this conflict: the question of borders, the status of Jerusalem, and the rights and status of Palestinian refugees are all significant points of contention that have fueled this long-standing dispute. These are not simple issues to resolve, and they have been the obstacles in the path of peace for a long time. We've also looked at the various peace efforts that have been made over the years. From the Oslo Accords in the 90s to more recent attempts, the road to peace has been rocky and fraught with challenges. Yet the pursuit of a lasting resolution continues despite the difficulties. As we've seen, the consequences of this enduring conflict are profound and far-reaching. The loss of life, displacement, and economic hardship endured by many Palestinians and Israelis are a stark reminder of the human cost of this dispute. It's a sobering reality that underscores the urgency of finding a peaceful solution. Achieving peace in this region is a daunting task indeed. It requires not just political will but also empathy, understanding, and a mutual commitment to justice and human rights. The complexities involved cannot be overstated, and the path to peace is not a straight line but a winding road filled with obstacles. The hope is that future efforts will lead to a just and lasting solution. It's a hope that rests on the shoulders of leaders, diplomats, and peace organizations, but also on each one of us who can contribute to a better understanding of this issue. And as we strive for peace, let's not forget the human stories behind the headlines, the real people whose lives are shaped by this conflict every day. Understanding the issue better and supporting peace initiatives can make a difference. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by the complexity of the Israel-Palestine conflict. Yet we must remember that knowledge is power. By better understanding the historical context and the key issues at stake, we can contribute to the discourse in a more informed way. The first step is to educate ourselves. There are numerous resources available, from books and documentaries to scholarly articles and first-hand accounts. By diversifying our sources of information, we can gain a more nuanced understanding of the conflict. But understanding is just the beginning. We can channel our knowledge into action by supporting organizations that work towards peace. These organizations are dedicated to fostering dialogue, promoting human rights, and providing humanitarian aid to those affected by the conflict. You can contribute to these efforts in a variety of ways. Donating funds is one way to help. Your contributions can support initiatives that provide essential services to those affected by the conflict, from medical aid to educational programs. But there are other ways to get involved too. You can use your voice to raise awareness about the conflict. Sharing information, discussing the issues, and challenging misinformation can all contribute to a more informed public discourse. Remember, every action, no matter how small, can have an impact. By staying informed, speaking out, and supporting peace initiatives, we can all play a part in working towards a resolution. So let's start today. Dive into the resources available. Support the organizations doing crucial work. Engage in the conversations. And remember, change doesn't happen overnight, but with persistent effort and commitment, we can contribute to making a difference. Feel free to share this video and continue to educate yourself on this topic.